that was fighting for gay rights, and people were killed.
Nobody was killed at Stonewall.
Nobody was killed.
You know that moment after a Drag Race season ends and the queens go back to the real world? Most fans end up moving on to the next batch of queens. And the taste of fame that the last batch of girls got, experiencing what it was like to be the center of attention, is nothing but a memory that is quickly fading away from them. That's where the game changers come in. These are individuals that, regardless of how things turned out, they made sure to do things people hadn't done to turn their fame into an empire. For this video, we're gonna focus on queens within the first 10 seasons of the main series that set a standard for how to handle yourself in the years after your season airs, serving as a blueprint for the generation that came after. That being said, chances are that you're using earbuds to listen to this video right now. I usually do too, but that's why I wanted to introduce you to Raycon's Everyday Earbuds, the sponsor of today's video. I've been using my Raycon Everyday Earbuds non-stop, editing videos, walking to grab coffee, tuning out chaos when I'm walking in public. They've been a surprisingly good addition to my lifestyle. The sound quality is crisp, they don't fall out even when I'm at the gym, and they're honestly the most comfortable earbuds I've worn. No ear pain, no weird pressure, just good audio. Plus, the noise cancellation adds so much to the experience. You pop them in, and suddenly the world is on mute. Perfect when I need to focus and block out any annoying noise. Most wireless earbuds don't have the longest battery life, but Raycon's earbuds get up to 32 hours of battery life. And if I'm running late and forgot to charge, 10 minutes plugged in gives me 90 minutes of life. Another thing I love is the multi-point connectivity. I can be listening to music on my laptop, get a call on my phone, and boom, it just switches over. No fusing settings, no why is this not connecting spiral. What's more is all the different colors they offer. They look sleek and come in a bunch of options if you want something a little flashier. I've got the matching protective case too. It's wireless charging compatible with the case on, which is such a tiny thing that just makes life easier. If you're thinking of grabbing a pair or getting a gift for someone, you might as well try it out, since Raycon offers a 30-day happiness guarantee, so you can always send them back if you don't like them. But trust me, these will be the right fit. So yeah, go to buyraycon.com/greengay for 15% off site-wide, or click the link in the description below and support the channel in the process. Now let's begin. First up is Willam. After Willam was disqualified on season 4, making it to the top 6, and even being told by RuPaul in the finale that had she not been disqualified, she probably would have made it to be one of the top 3 finalists. Willam took an event that was scandalous and used it as a launching pad for the future she envisioned for herself. The day her elimination aired, she uploaded the Chow Down at Chick-fil-A music video. It went on to become one of the most watched music videos by a Ru girl at over 10 million views today. Beyond that, she was one of the first to capitalize on YouTube, particularly her Beatdown series where she reacted to viral videos from the internet. We all know that Willam no longer has a connection to World of Wonder and will never be invited back. This has been the case since the year 2016. Yet even though hundreds of Drag Race queens have been introduced to the fandom in the almost full decade since she was blacklisted from World of Wonder, she accomplished things that not even queens who've been on All Stars have been able to do, like starring in the Oscar-nominated movie A Star is Born with Lady Gaga and Bradley Cooper, or guest starring on so many different TV shows, becoming an internet sensation, and going on to launch her own podcast network. Even if she might never compete on the franchise again, she was still an important part of those first figures that future queens looked up to. Yet in terms of branding lessons, that would have to go to this next queen, which is Alaska from season 5. Alaska's postseason career is impressive. When you look at her on season 5, she is a complete shell of a person than what she'd go on to become, even just a couple of months after the airing of her season concluded. Despite not winning the crown and being very hurt by it, this wouldn't go on to be the end of her. And in a sense, she sort of proved that when it came to branding, she knew how to capitalize off of every part of her persona. Her first album, titled Anus, along with the subsequent music videos she released from it, were not just average sounding drag queen music. It was a set of pretty well produced tracks, with some quirky lyrics that provided storytelling about the campiness of drag. To see drag queen music charting on the Billboard, even if it was subcategories that had less competition, was a taste of the future in the sense that it was possible for a queen to become mainstream. Beyond her music though, she's remained a loyal fan of RuPaul's Drag Race, even with the launch of her podcast series with Willam titled Race Chaser in 2018. It solidified her place within the sphere while actively being able to have a platform to provide advice on future contestants for how to handle their career, especially in their postseason trajectories. I feel like Alaska is sort of like the godmother of Ru girls. Her demeanor has always been to try to be happy for everyone, and even when it comes to the recent modern era of the series, series, there's an effort made from her to uplift even the memes that come from the fanbase, to make sure that the new queens get to have their memorable moments celebrated and remembered well into the future. Moving on, we have Adore Delano from season 6. Adore once described herself on season 6 as not being polished, but instead being polish remover. This was an aesthetic that she'd always remained true to, wearing whatever she wanted regardless of whether people found it to be too cheap looking for someone that was at her level of stardom. It was one of the first instances of a queen that became a fan favorite, but had to fight against the demands from people that wanted her to change her drag style so that it would fit everyone's expectations of what a Ru girl should look like. Instead, she focused on being an artist, releasing a total of 3 albums in the 4 years since her season aired, and was known to be one of the most highly demanded and highest booking fee among most of the other Ru girls. If anything, when she returned for All Stars 2 and ultimately quitting the show after giving in to the pressure that was being put on her to once again go against her drag aesthetic, it was a lesson for queens moving forward that if their drag brushed against the grain too much, then they should be ready to defend it hard. Not just that, Adore's backstory of her having competed on American Idol years prior to getting on Drag Race was significant because Adore had something to prove, and she'd end up being able to use the platform of drag to navigate herself as a musical artist, which was her passion since the start. Coming from the same season as her, Bianca Del Rio changed the game for what a Drag Race winner could do after the show. She didn't just take the crown and go back to doing the same type of gigs that she had been doing for the past decade in New York City. She went on to build an empire out of a charisma that to this day has not been matched by anyone else. Right after winning season 6, she kept pushing out stand-up tours, released her own comedy specials, starred in 2 movies of Hurricane Bianca, and consistently sold out massive venues like Wembley Arena. That kind of success, especially so quickly, hadn't really been seen before. It was significant in bringing a new meaning to the title of America's Next Drag Superstar, while also highlighting that you didn't need to be a look queen or releasing music in order to thrive in your career and earn marketability. Being a comedy queen, if done right, could be just as important. Along with that, Bianca took her reign seriously, taking every gig she could to ride out the wave that, for her, never actually faded. That hustle is what inspired future comedy queens to do their own international stand-up tours, which was sort of unheard of in terms of a drag queen appealing to the general fanbase in that way. Yet, if we're gonna talk about post-Drag Race runs that changed the game, one that's difficult for any other queen to touch is the rise of Trixie Mattel and Katya Zamolodchikova on season 7. Despite neither of them winning their original season, they ended up becoming 2 of the biggest names in drag history. The hit of their YouTube series Ugh was something the World of Wonder desperately tried to replicate with other queens over the years. Even James Charles tried to nibble on their nachos, but nobody ever came close to matching their chemistry. The show's success could be debated to have opened the doors for the longevity for each of their futures in the drag world. Trixie did go on to win All Stars 3, but even before that, both queens had built substantial followings. Their postseason trajectory is significant because it showed how variables outside of the series could be used as tools to change your narrative with the public. It was truly the birth of the internet era of drag, and their ability to reach an audience beyond the show's threshold put them on a new level. This brings us to Bob the Drag Queen from season 8. Bob is a queen who sort of just understood the assignment from the moment she stepped into the workroom. I like to think of season 8 as the year of the catchphrases, because while they did exist before, it was the first time, at least for me, that I could really tell how hard some taglines were being pushed throughout the episode. Like Bob's purse first, or Cynthia Lee Fontaine telling people she wanted them to see her cuckoo. These queens knew it was time to play the reality TV game, so why not try to take ownership of the product you were putting out? I feel like what separates Bob from most other winners is her ability to really educate her audience, especially in platforms like Sibling Rivalry, her podcast with Money Exchange. Her life in itself has been pretty inspiring. It made sense that she was chosen to host HBO's We're Here for 3 seasons. She's even competed on The Traitor season 3, which is pretty insane because, dare I say it, I feel Bob has sort of become a known celebrity. Like, this is the same queen that toured with Madonna's most recent world tour and cameoed on The Simpsons, so it isn't really that far-fetched to say. Bob showed when building your post-Drag Race legacy that there was never any territory she wasn't afraid of exploring. Speaking of, Sasha Velour, the winner of season 9, had an impact that is different from a lot of the other queens. Her trajectory was about completely changing the perception of what drag could be. Top with the fact that she was considered one of the most unexpected and controversial winners, with many thinking Shea Coulee should have won. What she did with her reign was not to go after mainstream popularity. Instead, she focused on creating her own niche in the drag world, with the birth of her show Smoke and Mirrors, or the now long-running Nightgowns Review, that always has some of the craziest theatrical high-concept drag that's insane to watch. When she said she was the first smart queen to ever exist, she was not joking. The significance of what Sasha did was that she showed future queens, and honestly the world, that drag can't be political, poetic, and deeply intellectual without losing its appeal. It was like having our first nerdy queen enter the winner's circle, and it was a good addition to the personalities we had gone to know thus far, pretty much opening the door for a different kind of drag to succeed. It's that same season where Sasha found so much success that another queen flew too close to the sun and got burned in the process. Valentina on season 9 was like Beatlemania in the 60s. People couldn't go a day without expressing their love for her. Yet things ended so abruptly after she failed to learn the lyrics to Greedy by Ariana Grande. Regardless, even though she didn't win the crown, she had still gotten catapulted into international stardom. The personality of being this telenovela fantasy became part of her brand, and she consistently showed on tour that she was a capable performer regardless of what happened in the lip sync on season 9. She turned what could have been a joke into part of her legendary status in the drag world. Rather than shying away from the masquerade drama, she leaned into it and used it to build an image, proving that regardless if your most memorable moment is positive or in this case very negative, you could spin something good out of it. When we get to Miss Vanjie on season 10, her rise is one of the wildest and most unexpected success stories ever. She was eliminated first on season 10, said one iconic tagline while walking backwards, and somehow became the breakout queen of the season. Like, yeah, the fanbase was obsessed with her, but also RuPaul herself was laughing about Miss Vanjie throughout the rest of the season, even wearing a Miss Vanjie necklace to one of the red carpet events during the initial airing of season 10. It was literally the elimination that changed the trajectory of not just herself, but the cast of season 11, because she would end up being invited to return and compete among them, reaching all the way to the top 5, showing that her being a viral sensation wasn't a mistake. It was a true taste of her personality that we missed out on for the continuation of the season. Her story reminded the fanbase and future queens that even if you do get eliminated first, doesn't necessarily mean it'll be the end of your drag career as a whole, and might end up having a silver lining in the future. Finally, this brings us to Asia O'Hara, who also competed on season 10, making it to the final 4. Asia O'Hara is one of those queens whose presence has stayed solid and respected in the drag race world without needing to try to develop an online presence. While her season 10 Butterfly Gate could have easily spelled a hard future ahead of her, she honestly handled things better than I think anybody else could have. Managing to move past that fiasco, she changed the narrative of how people perceived her, which was a professional queen. Added with the fact that so many queens in the drag world respected her and speak so highly of her, says it all. Instead of fading into the background, she built a reputation that's been consistent. She became a core part of the Work the World tour, and even now she's a regular cast member in RuPaul's Drag Race Live Las Vegas. She's not the loudest queen online, but established a longevity that's clearly built upon how easy it is to work with her and the level of talent she brings. I know this sounds super corny, but Asia O'Hara's postseason run represented a version of success that's rooted in being a role model rather than engaging in drama. Looking at the bigger picture, what ties all of these queens together is how they established blueprints for the queens that would start competing in the second decade of the franchise, with the double-digit seasons, and even the international seasons too. But which queen do you think set a standard for how to pave the way for your drag career? Let me know in the comments. Thanks again to Raycon's Everyday Earbuds for sponsoring today's video. Make sure to click the link in the description to get 15% off your first order and support the channel in the process. I want to take a moment to thank my patrons. In the Elite Pink Squad, we have Matthew Burns, Sari Tish, Las Potitas, Gay Uncle, Natasha DeLeon, Cool Gal Nan, and Jetzam Adams. And in the Green Squad, we have Cayman Rider Furry, Edgar Allan Pup, The Only Sean, IJS, Not a Punch But a Keek, Jack Beck, Bashir with a good beard, Galeria Gomez, Sarah G, Boiled Peanut, Max Whale, Olivia Marr, Dea, Scarlet Rose, and our newest additions, welcome to the Green Squad, Niall O'Hearn, and Michael Alsante. If you'd like to join the Patreon, if you'd like to support me on Patreon, you can click the link in the description, and I'll see you guys next time.